And welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and coming up, we will talk plenty of playoffs, because now all three of the sports that we basically keep an eye on, actually you call it four sports because you got boys and girls on both hockey and basketball that we focus on this program, are all in the playoffs or even at the state tournament when it comes to hockey. So we'll talk about what's going on in the postseason for these teams, athletes, and schools. Also, again, we have a pair of guests, our coach guests for this week, the head girls basketball coach at Athens High School, coming off a big road win in a regional final, earning a spot in the sectionals on Thursday. Kyncaide. Athens went to Pacelli and knocked off the Pacelli Cardinals on Saturday. So we'll talk about that, talk about the season as a whole for Athens, and look ahead to the sectionals as well with Kyncaide coming up at 6:20 tonight. And then at 7 o'clock, it's our student-athlete guest and a multi-sport outstanding performer at Wausau West, Brett Butalla. He was a terrific football player and now having a fine basketball season as well, leading scorer for the Warriors as they get set for their Division I regional semifinal at Kyncaide coming up on Friday night. So again, Kyncaide from Athens, girls basketball coach at 6:20, and Brett Butalla at 7 o'clock, our student-athlete guest from Wausau West. And we're heading down the stretch. Just a few weeks to go as we get into the postseason, start handing out some championships.
Yeah,
it's a good time of year.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, you get to see you watch for some of the upsets. You get to see how well teams were seeded. You get just a lot of, I think, excitement with teams. Kind of things are on the line, and your season can be done in a bat of eye, so you want to make the most of every single moment. And for us, it's exciting as the observers of these sports to see what these athletes and coaches can do.
Let's talk about the Wisconsin Valley Conference all-conference teams, because that came out today, and it's, I think, good to, especially the large schools in our area that we talk so much about, and all-conference performers announced both for the boys and the girls today. On the boys' side, interesting because 4 of the 5 first-team performers will be back next year. Only one senior on the all-WVC first team. Brooks Hinson was the player of the year, junior from Marshfield, one of the first-team performers. Also, Grant Shodenoff from Stevens Point, also a junior. Jesse Knapp-Gezik of Wausau East, a junior. Chris Pohl of Marshfield, only a sophomore. And Carter Combs of Stevens Point, a senior. Second team, again, 4 of the 5 returning next year. Sophomore Cohen Preby of DC Everest. Junior Cohen Preby of DC Everest. Junior Charlie Cayley of Wausau East. Junior Casey Studeman of DC Everest. Junior Landon Lee of Marshfield. And the lone senior on the second team, our guest tonight, Brett Butalla of Wausau West. And then on the honorable mention, only 3 are seniors as well. You got 6 juniors and a sophomore honorable mention. Sean Reynes of Wisconsin Rapids, Griffin Lang of Wausau West, Jaron Sees of Stevens Point, E.J. Wykes of Merrill, Baraka McAleen of Stevens Point, and Jaden Garrett of Wausau East are all juniors. Sophomore Brody Gilbertson of Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln, Carter Bade, senior from Merrill, Lucas Hager, senior from Wausau West, Brant Fries, senior of Marshfield, also honorable mention. And the coach of the year was Chris Fisher of Marshfield. And any thoughts? Because I know that you watch a lot of the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Obviously, you saw a lot of Wausau East games with family on the team, but you also generally watch a lot of conference games in the WVC. Any thoughts on what we see with the all-conference team?
Well, again, you kind of always interesting how it plays out. Even when I was coaching, you see a lot of times we were talking off air a little bit that the coach of the year should almost be automatically the conference championship, because most of the time it is. And I think a lot of times that team that is.
But at the same time, as you well know, it doesn't mean that's the best job. I mean, you could have a team that should be 2 wins and
Right.
get 6
That's
wins.
why those stuff's voted on.
But you don't see a lot of that. You usually see the team that does get the win, the championship.
Especially if everybody's getting along in the conference.
That's true. That's true.
It works out well. But so I think obviously when you read some of the names and where the teams they're from, it becomes a little top heavy with the teams that are obviously at the top. You have some surprises sometimes with accolades too, where teams may have struggled a little bit, and then those kids reap that benefit a little bit from maybe a little bit tougher season in terms of the wins and loss category. So, I've heard a lot of times from any of the coaches that I've talked to, which is kind of what you led into with is the youth in this conference. The team, and by that I mean the kids that are coming back. I mean, there's a lot of good athletes graduating out of that conference. I think the Valley was definitely up this year. And you'll see some more of that maybe in these first round of the playoffs games. It definitely showed up in the seedings. But I think at the same time, there's good things happening in the years to come with the team, with the kids that they have coming back, and that's good and bad because sometimes as a coach you want to see somebody graduate because they've been such a headache to go against.
Right.
But at the same time, when a team can reload, take Marshfield for example, reload with a lot of upperclassmen, or a lot of upperclassmen that'll be back for next year. That's a big deal, I think.
And I agree that Brooks Hinson was the player of the year. I mean, just the last time the 2 times I saw him in person, and I'm seeing him on video as well. But the last game against Wausau West a couple of weeks ago, he was the sole reason they won that basketball game. He came out there in the second half, had a run of 3-pointers and led the way, and he does so many things on the court. He's not just a scorer. He's somebody that I don't know if I saw anybody that was better at just knowing where to be on the court in terms of knocking a pass away, starting a fast break, getting easy baskets for his team, knowing when to share the basketball very well. I think it really was head and shoulders. Hinson, and as a junior, he does come back, but I thought he was just outstanding this year.
Yeah, and I know for my time when I'm on this show, I'm talking teams, talking generalities, not going into too many specifics because that's kind of the aspect I like to analyze. Even though we've talked, stats drive a lot of things. Stats show up. They kind of can dictate where teams go to, what they guard, what they stop, what they try to improve. But I think, in giving Hinson some of the props, just the little intangibles that he did. I saw a couple games where he might not have been top dog in the scoring category, but the other little things you said, just that floor general, just being every coach really likes, and there's a lot of Valley teams that have these guys, but they like to have, and a lot of teams in our area that have these guys, you like that on-court coach. And I think when you can find a player that can be like that knows where everybody's supposed to be, they know possibly the next move in the game, and can hurt another team in different ways, whether it's from their hustle, whether it's the way they distribute the ball, whether it's just locking down on somebody defense. In all actuality, sometimes those are the things that we get a little lost in because, the stats pop up and drive everything that everybody's analyzing. And I think those little intangibles go a long way. And he definitely did that on top of all the things that everybody else sees. He was just cool and composed on that floor, and a dangerous weapon, and a lot of the guys we talk to in the Valley talk about that.
And looking at the Valley for the girls basketball all-conference team, 3 seniors on the first team. You had Ashley Grankorvitz of Marshfield, Maya Ott, who was our guest last week, of Merrill, Kelly Cray of Wausau West, 1 junior, Kristen Ratke of Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln, and then a freshman, Jada Seibert of Stevens Point. And not only was she all-conference first team, unanimous all-conference first team, she was named the player of the year as a freshman in a Division I conference. Really impressive stuff. And again, I was saying to you before the show, she was the main factor in their win over Wausau West last Friday. We'll talk about what they had on Saturday, a 1-point loss against Eau Claire Memorial. But she was, I was listening to that game, and she was the one that kept Stevens Point in there, giving them a chance to win. Normally you say, freshman. No, I think she was the best player in the Wisconsin Valley Conference this year.
Yeah, in the bigger conferences that we see around our area or just in the state in general, when you see these all-conference teams and you see some of that youth pop up there, obviously they stood out. They were respected by the other teams in their conference and those coaches. And I think for to say a freshman's player of the year in the conference, that means something. I've only seen her, to be honest, on the stats I've looked at, and then I've seen her in highlights on TV. So, obviously looks good there.
Real
Go
fast.
ahead.
The thing that I have seen her in a couple of times. Number one, she doesn't look like a freshman. I mean, she just looks like, she isn't. Sometimes the freshman girls are just so thin. They look like they would break if you ran into. She is somebody that, as a guard, she carries herself. She just moves around the court so impressively. She just looks very natural out there. And I know that already. There are some Division I college programs sniffing around. I got to talking to someone from Stevens Point, and she just carries herself in a way that if you didn't know, she does not look like a freshman at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it makes sense. And obviously, congrats on that. That's the feat that she accomplished. The other thing that I think we often forget when we're looking to put and punch people into the starting lineup in a varsity program, because you pick the best of the best to get into that rotation, to get into your starting lineup, and that's going to make your team successful and win. And I think the hardest part about that is you got to keep in mind that last year when they are freshmen jumping to the varsity, there's a whole different level of bigger, faster, stronger. There's a different level of thinking. There's a different level of both physical and mental aspect to the game. And that these kids, if you can think, she was just last year at the end of this finishing up 8th grade basketball. And then to go make that transition and not only get a starting spot, lead the team in scoring, and then at the end of the day win player of the year, that's a big deal. That's a huge jump, because again, if a kid can just say he starts as a freshman, I think that's a big deal. To be able to win some accolades and start demonstrating that you're wise beyond your years, so to speak, is a big deal. It'll be interesting to see where her career takes her and the good things she has on the basketball floor to come.
And the thing about her as well is that she has played a lot of basketball outside the school system as well. In fact, and even on her X account, it's Wisconsin Flight Elite. And so that she's already played a lot of basketball. And that goes a long way, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. If that off-season commitment's a big deal.
Second team, all WVC on the girls' side, Zeta Kolbeck of Marshfield, Claire Cushman of Wausau East, Ellie Strong of Spash, Kirsten Hall of DC Everest, Ayla Christensen of Wausau West, 3 juniors and the senior, Claire Cushman, Ellie Strong, a sophomore. Honorable mention, Lindsay Weiler of Spash, along with Adelia Nest, Sydney Holberg of Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln, Sophie Wendorf of Merrill, Paige Anderson of Wausau West, Sydney Crawford of Wausau East. 4 Marshfield players, Rayella Schuler, Ayana Busum, Emma Ridgway and Mackenzie Holm, and Abby Josie of Stevens Point. So, again, a little bit more seniors at the top in the girls' side. Merrillwood Conference South all-conference team on the boys' side. And you talked about young players in the Valley. They were all seniors, all first-teamers in the Merrillwood South. Grant Warren, what a year he had. What a finish he had last week. He had more than 40 points in their final regular season game. Tyler Underwood, also for Marathon first team. Caden Anderson and Caden Weinferder of Auburndale, and Brady Schmidt of Stratford, again, all seniors. Second team, Merrillwood South. Brett Baumgartner of Edgar, a senior. J.T. Schlafer from Assumption, who is a sophomore. Edgar's Tegan Strait, he is a senior. Cooper Huxama of Marathon, a senior. And Drew Brusewitz of Stratford, who is a junior. And then the honorable mention, Assumption had Jack Wiedemeyer, Logan Nystrom, Evan Scholl, and Blake Robb of Auburndale, Carter Butt and Preston Dalkey of Edgar, Drew Wolfel and True Thurs of Marathon, Quincy Fender and Lucas Piffner of Newman Catholic, Henry Zaleski and Peyton Glenn of Stratford. The player of the year was Grant Warren. I don't think it's a surprise there. And coach of the year, also not a surprise, Adam Jacobson. But you talk about a senior-laden group in the Merrillwood South.
Yeah, it's funny how it can go from year to year. It's just kind of what you have with the players that are driving their teams, what coaches recognize, what players are able to accumulate statistical-wise, or what damage they're able to do. Because sometimes a player can be consistent and then they fall off against a team, so they might not get that vote from that team because they weren't on their A game that night. It just depends. But in watching and following enough of the Merrillwood games, there's no surprises there on those teams that were in those spots. With Marathon Auburndale having 4 of the top 5. Stratford was in 3rd place, and they had one of the other guys on the top team. So it just kind of shows where those teams are finishing. Even with some of that youth for I take Assumption, for example. They have 3 guys, 1 guy on the second and 2 of the honorable mention, and all sophomores, and Newman's 2 honorable mention were sophomores. So, there's a good mixture of what you kind of see coming up versus what's going to graduate and move on. And not surprising for Marathon with the stellar season they have, that they were able to put all 5 starters on the various honorable mention team.
By the way, we're going to talk mainly about playoffs later, but the boys did wrap up the regular season last weekend. One of the big games last Thursday was that Marathon Auburndale game, and what Grant Warren did that night just was amazing. I was doing the Newman game on Thursday, and Tom Weaver was doing the Marathon Auburndale game. And he sent me a message, just said amazing performance. Grant Warren was 19 of 25 from the field. He had 4 of 5 from 3-point range. 6'10" kid in high school going 4 for 5 from beyond the arc. Had 14 rebounds to go with 43 points. The closeout, what has been a fantastic career, and have perhaps his best game going into a very important playoff run. And against a really good team in Auburndale. Obviously, Auburndale knew they had to try and slow down Grant Warren, and they had no answers.
Yeah, they weren't able to. Well, when you got a player like that, too, that is versatile as much as he is on the outside, to go on the inside and take it to you on a post move. And the thing I've always liked about his play, and even when you've discussed, number one, he could score 2 points, and he just, they just want to win at the end of the day. You could tell from the time when he was on the show and what he shared with us of how important the team plays and that extra pass. And for him to, that's kind of the way you want to go out on your own court at the end of the regular season. And just, I don't know what the answer would have been for that, other than fouling him, and he's a great free throw shooter. So if he's going out and hitting that, still getting the boards, I'm sure, the benefits his teammates have gotten from playing with a guy of that caliber too. And just, one of those, a good well-rounded kid too, so you want to see him be successful.
And that's actually an interesting point when you talk about free throws. Normally you think, 43 points for a big guy. He probably got to the line quite a bit. Yeah. He was 1 for 1 at the line in that game. So 42 of his 43 points came from the field. 1 point from the free throw line. In fact, Marathon was 4 of 5 at the free throw line that night. Not many free throws.
Which is not characteristic. Marathon don't usually go to the line a lot. They like to beat you.
And Auburndale only had 7 free throw attempts in the game. So it was a game where there were not a lot of free throws. Maybe they were hiding something in case they meet again here coming up in the very near future. But again, I just thought that that was worth mentioning in terms of the end of the regular season. Anything else in the end of the regular season? Because we're going to, again, after we talk to Coach Keefe of Athens, go into the playoffs on the boys' side. But anything, I think Mosinee and Rhinelander ended up tied for the Great Northern Conference Championship, because Mosinee was able to finish off with a win against Lakeland last Thursday, and Rhinelander beat Medford in order to get a share. I think, again, it was a season where it felt like Mosinee was in charge, where we were talking about, is Rhinelander playing too many tough opponents in the non-conference, and yet they were able to ultimately get themselves a share of a conference championship against a very good Mosinee squad.
Yeah, I think, to your point, that was a good finish for them. I didn't look the number of games that they won down the stretch, but they came alive a little bit at the end. And for them
They beat the big boys at the end, both Mosinee and Medford.
I thought that was probably the most, because a lot of these games, things were wrapped up. People were finishing. The team that was a little better was supposed to win the game and did. So I thought for Rhinelander to finish that out against Medford, where there was something on the line, it was for a conference, share of the conference title. So I think for them to do that and get that win against Medford, it becomes a big deal. The 1 point at Mosinee, and then that game, they finished their season pretty strong. I also liked going to the Merrillwood South. Stratford crept in there. 19-5. We talked to Coach Schmidt early on in the year, and he said it's just a work in progress. We got a lot of things. Then they tottered a little bit in a couple games. It didn't look like their strongest performance from the execution standpoint of what I'm sure Coach Schmidt would have wanted to see. But now, 12-4 mark in that conference and 19-5 to finish out the regular season. A good solid finish for a team that, when you look down the list, they don't have the. For what we see out of the other teams in that conference, like that stud guy, a couple go-to guys, they're just kind of all doing their job and doing it together, which is the beauty of that.
We're going to take a timeout and then come back with our first guest tonight. A little bit later in the show at 7 o'clock, our student-athlete guest will be Brett Butalla from Wausau West. But coming up next, we're going to talk to the head girls basketball coach of Athens High School, Kyncaide, coming up next. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. On Friday night, the Wausau West High School boys basketball team starts the playoffs, traveling to Kyncaide in a Division I regional semifinal. Hear all the exciting action live on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening tip at 7 p.m. Wausau West boys basketball on Bull Falls Radio is brought to you by the Cloverbell Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurant, Sun Printing, Graphic Packaging International, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Menke Automotive, Shine Chiropractic, and Picks and Pieces. It's Wausau West at Kyncaide in a Division I boys basketball regional semifinal. Friday, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening tip at 7 p.m. on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
Now you can organize and create lasting memories by converting your photos and memories into digital photos you can share with family and friends. Picks and Pieces will create your custom photo books and slideshows that are perfect for family gatherings, weddings, or any special events. You'll receive your finished product on an external hard drive or cloud service of your choice for easy viewing and sharing. Contact Melissa at Picks and Pieces Photo Management and Digital Organization at 446-0762. Email mel@picksandpieces.com. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And again, don't forget, if you miss any part of the show, it's also put up as a podcast. Just go to bullfallsradio.com/sports and you'll be able to hear the Big High School Sports Show, all of our high school sports play-by-play broadcast and more. Or just search out Big High School Sports Show wherever you get your podcast. With former Newman Catholic High School boys basketball coach Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. And time for our coach guest for this week. And this week we have a coach who's coming off a big road win in the playoffs, and those are always good ones, as the Athens Blue Jays went to Stevens Point and knocked off the number 1 seed Pacelli Cardinals last Saturday to earn a spot in a sectional semifinal coming up on Thursday in Merrill against Pittsville. We're very happy to welcome to the program Kyncaide, the head girls basketball coach at Athens. And Coach, first of all, thank you for spending a few minutes with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, before we talk about the game against Pacelli and then the game against Pittsville coming up, let's talk generally about your season. And obviously it's been a solid season. You finished in second place in the Merriwood North. You have won 18 games so far this year. Generally, has the season gone the way that you expected when you started practice back last fall? Has this been the kind of season you expected?
No, not at all. Actually, losing Addison, our All-State point guard, senior point guard, to a knee injury really, I don't want to say threw us off, but it gave us new opportunities, new roles that we kind of needed some time to grow into, and we as coaches, we as players knew at the end of the season, after we gained some confidence in these new roles, that we'd be a pretty solid ball team out there. So in a way, no, but in a way also kind of yes, that we knew at the end we'd be playing our best ball.
And how long did that process take? And actually, I thought maybe you would start off with that because that was such a major loss for your program and your team this season. Obviously, it is something that has to be an adjustment. Did it take a long time during the course of this season for the new roles to really settle in?
I mean, you could tell in some of the bigger games, like we played a lot of tough teams in our schedule. It's pretty stacked, like a Regis, a McDonald, Phillips, Crandon. Like we played all those teams, and I think there was moments where I was like, yep, that's who we can be. That's who we're going to be come February, March. But there was also moments where I was like, yeah, we really got to work on that. So, I mean, our seniors definitely stepped up and handled that, but also learned what they needed to get better on. So, yeah, yes and no, to answer your question.
And Coach, with some of your, I guess, you share with us, I guess, some of your players who've been some of the key cogs that have helped you make this little run at the end. The people you relied on throughout the season. What they've meant, what they've done. I mean, we see them on paper. We don't always get to see them personally. So, what you want to share about the outstanding student athletes you get to work with each day?
Yeah, and I mean, we are a very strong senior-led team right now with Sophia Coker obviously being a front runner. Her in the paint presence, blocking shots, getting rebounds. She does it on both ends. She's just a constant for us, and she's very solid. Brings that energy as well. But someone who kind of goes a little under the radar for us is Giselle Hartwig also. She's kind of stepped into that point guard role. Truly, I think she's more of like a forward, but she knows for the team she's going to take one and step into that point guard role. But also just on defense, we thrive off our defense, and Giselle's the top of the 1-3-1 or top of our 2-3 that we run. And she's really getting a lot of deflections, a lot of steals, and kind of freaking out the other defenders. And that's a huge part of who we are and what we push every single day. So definitely for sure those two. And I mean, Sophia's twin sister, Sydney, also is pretty tough inside the paint. A big athletic body, kind of blocking shots, getting in your way, making you uncomfortable if you're trying to finish inside around her. But a surprise for us this year kind of has been Ava Ford. She's started JV and varsity at the beginning of the year. Maybe after the first 2 games on JV, we were like, nope, we need her full-time varsity. And she's truly just like Giselle. She's doing everything the stats really don't show. She's getting touches on defense, hustling down, boxing out, closing out, like doing everything right. And she's grown so much just as a sophomore. So it's nice to see her developing as a player and kind of fitting in, not as a missing piece in our puzzle, but fitting in nicely with what we kind of preach every single day.
And Coach, I guess I look at some things that, this way, I guess, to paint the picture. When you have seniors and this is their last go around, graduation's not going to stop. It's going to come sooner rather than later, and probably much sooner than they probably want if they love their high school athletics and school. And
Yep.
I think it's very dangerous down the stretch to have a core group of seniors that there's that drive, there's no quit. I saw you play, this is much earlier in the year, I think, against Newman, but you even at that point, your team had the size, had some physicality, had some, like, we've been around and we've done this before, and we're going to come at you till you don't allow us to do that, and if you allow us to do it, we're going to make it tough for you, and kind of this no-nonsense attitude that we're just going to bring things at you for both halves of the basketball game. And I saw that. Has that, been a big deal? Obviously, you beat Marion significantly. You obviously, looking at the score, controlled Loyal really well, and then to have a little bit of a fight with Pacelli and come out on top when they're the number 1 seed with a great W there. Has that been something that you've seen out of this group of girls with these seniors, that there's this willingness and this drive, and they don't you don't want it to end, and they're going to be able to keep going, where there's just this huge anticipation to finish out the season to the best of their abilities?
Yes, and you kind of put that spot on. We definitely rely on that senior leadership, that composure, and that drive down the stretch. I mean, in Pacelli, for sure, they made a great comeback. They're a great program. We kind of knew once we had our lead, it wasn't going to stay like that because they were a great program. They were going to make some sort of a comeback. But, yeah, we looked to our seniors. I kind of looked at them and I said, don't look back in an hour here and have any regrets. And at that moment, like, something switched inside them, and they turned it on. they leveled everything up, their energy, their offense, their defense. I mean, that just feeds off onto their teammates as well. So definitely rely on those 4 seniors a lot. Addison, too, on the bench. I mean, I still count her as part of that spark plug for us, that leadership, composure, everything. She definitely still does her role as she can right now.
Let me ask you about Addison, because when I was looking at the stats, she did get in a game and she scored a basket. What happened there? Could you maybe tell us about that?
Yes, I believe it was our last conference game against Prentice. We had it was a very emotional night. It was our senior night. We had just asked if she could maybe start the game out with a wide open layup, uncontested, just to give her one last moment, one last layup. I mean, she was, 30-some points away from 1,000. So she definitely has made a lot of layups, made a lot of shots in her day for Athens, but just one more, not as a closure for her, but just that last moment in front of her fans in the nest. And I really respect Prentice for allowing us to do that. And like I said, it was emotional, but it was definitely well-deserved for Addison. I'm really happy that we were allowed to do that.
Again, we're talking to Kyncaide Keefe, the head girls basketball coach at Athens High School, here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Let's talk about your conference a little bit, because you've been around Athens, obviously, quite a while in terms of as a player and as a coach. The Marywood North is in the past. There was always a sense that the North was a step or two behind the South, and maybe even a little more than that. But the last few years, it feels like the top of the Marywood North, with schools like yourself and especially at Phillips as well, have made big strides in girls basketball. How would you describe the progression of the conference? How good is your conference this year?
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of said it correctly. In the past, we've kind of been looked down upon by the South, and for good reason. I mean, we weren't putting up the numbers, putting up the fights, but as of recent years, the last 2-3 for sure, Phillips has been a powerhouse with those Egebrecht sisters, and I think that's a spark. And then us seeing them, Phillips, twice a year, that just makes us better. And then those South teams, any team in the South you're going to go play, you're going to have to give everything you got to try and get that win. And that just makes us better as North teams. So continuously seeing those South girls, those teams every year, and having to fight, I don't know, that's just, it's kind of a weird dynamic because it all counts for your conference
right.
record. But it's definitely what makes us all better. And I don't want to say there's not like a rivalry between North and South, because every time I'm rooting for that North team to pull up an upset or pull out that win. And I know other teams in the North are doing the same. It's just, we've had some incredible athletes in the recent years come out of the North. So it's nice to see North kind of make their way into the Marywood.
Well, let me ask you about one of those crossovers you had just earlier this month. In fact, about 4 weeks ago on the 1st of February, when you went to Rapids and had a 1-point game against Assumption, who was undefeated at the time. And I think that was noticeable. I think a lot of folks noticed, hey, Athens went to Assumption and had a 1-point game, had a chance to win that basketball game. What did that game mean going into the month of February, going down the stretch for your team? Did that add a little bit of confidence coming down the stretch?
For sure. I mean, confidence, motivation, a little bit of both. I think it was 2 years ago we went down to Assumption in a regional final game, and we lost by 1. So when we went into that gym again, we were like, all right, ladies, we're not losing by 1 again. If it comes down to it, make your free throws, get that extra stop on defense or whatever. So the fact that it came down to it again, it definitely was more motivation to hopefully see them again down the road. If we keep winning, they keep winning. That would be pretty cool, just another showdown. But definitely also confidence that our girls can play with the number 1 ranked team in D5 and play well with them. We handled their pressure. We kind of caused them some turnovers, which they're not really known for. So we also kind of freaked them out a little bit. And just our girls knowing, hey, we can kind of play with anybody here. That's a 1-possession game, 1 call our way, 1 call or one more free throw, whatever it is, and that game's ours, So definitely a confidence booster for our girls.
Well, the good thing would be if you do play them again would be at the state tournament. So it's something to look forward to.
Yeah. Yep.
And Coach, how much fun? Just speaking on a different note, sometimes you coaches you get out there, you get in the school system of that maybe wasn't the one you grew up in and you're not an alumnus of, and those coaches take those jobs and then kind of make it your own. I think it's extra special when you were a student, you were an athlete there, you have an extra connection through family member, whatever it is. And then you get to take over that team. I think there's just an extra sense of pride, an extra sense of accomplishment. I think sometimes even it means a little bit more because you already were there one other time in your life, and now you're there in a new role. How much fun has it been to be able to build that program, make it your own? Your seniors now, you've been around for a while with them, and you obviously jump back down to the youth levels, just to kind of go back to your beginnings and currently live your life out there each and every day. You get to work with those girls.
Yeah, and it is such an honor to continue to be a Blue Jay and represent this school. These fans they're like none other. They support everything. If you ever need anything, they're there. If you need someone to pack a gym, they're there. So just being able to still be around that's pretty special. And I actually, my varsity coach was my mom and then Angela Totsky, who both of them I have back on staff with me now to this day, just because everything they taught me, I still want to instill in these new girls. I still want it around. So just, still being able to have those girls around and just kind of teaching the game the way they taught me, while also bringing some of what I bring to the table to these girls. It's just very special. And then being in the nest, we call our gym the nest. That's also pretty special, in a new role, obviously, but definitely very fun, special. Honored to have this position. Definitely don't take a day for granted.
And looking forward to, the playoff game. You've had a little taste out of that conference. I saw Pacelli and Pittsville Warren a little bit when they showed the highlights on the news when they played each other earlier, or just a couple weeks ago. And now you get Pittsville, which is
They played each other a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Pacelli and Pittsville did.
No,
right?
Pittsville and Athens played a couple weeks ago.
You did already. Okay,
yes.
well, so I guess here.
Let me jump in here.
Okay.
I got the information here.
Okay? I got one question off that. Then,
okay.
I didn't know you. I apologize. I didn't know you guys had played each other earlier. Looking for, I guess, then taking that question towards the second time around. Things that you think you have to shore up from the first meeting you had with them, and anything that you think could come out of their grab bag that you might not have seen that they might show at you.
Let me predict. You're going to say free throws number one, right?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
11 of 24 the first time around in a 6-point loss.
Yep, and trust me, we've been saying that all week long. But we also can't rely on things like that, getting calls, whatever it may be. That game in general was just very, very physical. So handling that physicality, I think a little better mentally too, knowing you're going to get pushed around, but handling it instead of shooting to get fouled, shoot to make the shot. And then if you get fouled, make your free throw, obviously. But also at the same time, I think limiting those turnovers, I don't know if we had 20 turnovers that game, but it was just really, really silly, kind of unforced turnovers on our end, trying to make things happen that really aren't, we shouldn't try to make happen, that we don't normally do. So I don't want to say it was sloppy on our end in the first place, because they play great defense. They definitely forced us into doing things we didn't want to do. But Sophia Coker was also held to one field goal that game. And that's very abnormal for her, but they did a double, triple team on her anytime she got the ball. So we've just kind of been preparing for how to handle that. If they're going to take Sophia away, okay, what's our plan? How are we going to react? What's Sophia going to do? And that type of thing, if that makes sense. But we know for sure it's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be physical. They're very competitive. They have great athletes, great coach. So we know it's going to be a dogfight, and we're excited for it. We're ready for it. The girls said today at practice, I wish you could play today. I'm like, me too. Let's get this over with. Let's go. But no, they're excited. I'm excited. and win or lose, I'm just very proud of how far we've come thus far, and kind of what we bring to the table, and excited to see tomorrow what we bring to the table, who shows up for the Blue Jays.
And sectionals are a different animal. You're playing at a neutral site in a bigger gym in Merrill.
Yep.
How do you try to make sure that the environment that is a little different doesn't affect your girls?
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of tried to play in a few tournaments this year to kind of prepare us for this moment in bigger gyms. Kind of the depth perception too. I don't know if that makes sense to most people, but shooting in a gym with a farther area behind the hoop and the wall, that's different too. So I think just getting that exposure to new gyms, bigger gyms, the lighting, everything's going to be a little different. And hopefully it's packed. But I mean, we know we can't control that kind of thing. We know we control our effort, our energy, and our mental game. So I think if we just show up with those three things and play a game that we're proud of, the score will show at the end.
Coach, again, it's been a real fun ride for you and your girls so far this season. Congrats on getting that regional championship. Best of luck tomorrow night when you take on the Pittsville Panthers in Merrill. And again, thanks for spending a few minutes with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. That's Coach Kyncaide of the Athens Blue Jays. Again, a Division V sectional semifinal tomorrow night, taking on Pittsville in Merrill. We're going to take a 2-minute timeout and then come back and start to talk about the basketball playoffs. And we'll talk about the hockey state tournaments coming up later as well, plus our student-athlete guest coming up at 7 o'clock, Brett Butalla from Wausau West. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. When you're faced with a challenge, how you respond determines the real winners. Rural Mutual believes there's something more important than just winning or losing a game. They believe that the team, school, and fans who support their athletes with dignity and class are the true champions. Rural Mutual is the proud sponsor of the WIAA Rural Mutual Insurance Sportsmanship Award since it started in 1965. The award recognizes more than team sportsmanship. It recognizes that sportsmanship matters in your community as well. Visit ruralmutual.com/WIAA and see how our team and your community can work together to be true champions.
Take your career to the next level with Graphic Packaging International. Work with a team to make Hot Pocket sleeves and the food trays you find at our local fair. Join the GPI team and experience the benefits of one of the highest paying manufacturers in the area, starting at almost $22.55 per hour. Enjoy job security, a clean facility, and an excellent benefits package, including a week of vacation after 4 months and 2 weeks after a year. Apply today at graphicpkg.com and elevate your career with Graphic Packaging.
What's your idea of winter fun? If it's hitting the trails after a fresh snowfall and you're thinking new snowmobile, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. If you're thinking new four-wheel drive vehicle to get you to the downhill slopes or the cross-country trails, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. Quick, easy loan applications, friendly lenders, and great rates make CCU the lending leader in financing fun. If your idea of winter fun isn't in the snow, maybe hitting the highway in a new motorhome is the way to go. Just give CCU a call. Financing for motorhomes and winter getaways. When you think fun, think Clover Belt Credit Union. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Call CCU for your great rate financing. Dial 715-842-5693 or apply online or from your smartphone. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app with Jeff Gress. I'm Chad Holmes, and let's continue talking about the girls. We just had Athens girls basketball coach Kyncaide with us. Let's talk about what's going on in girls high school hoops. Let's start with Division I because we won't have to talk about Division I really much more after this because the Wisconsin Valley Conference is done for the season. Nobody from the WVC has advanced to the sectionals. Last week, Friday, we had Stevens Point defeat Wausau West. Number 5 Spash, number 12 Wausau West by a score of 46-23. Jada Seibert outscored the entire Wausau West team. She had 24 points in that game. And again, for West, 23 points. And I was actually talking to one of the assistants for Wausau West yesterday. I did not see the game. And I said, it kind of reminded me back middle of the season around the holidays where West was struggling offensively. And that's what it sounded like that happened. They just could not put the ball in the hole. And they played good defense, that was told. I mean, 46 points against Stevens Point is a good number. But for West, it was, again, they lost a lot from last year's team. And when they were struggling, it was just a matter of they weren't able to score enough points.
And, that'll kill you. I mean, you can look at playoff games and even games that I coached in, and when that offensive production's not there that you expect to get it, you still have to even out and play both sides of the basketball. Whether your defense is great, you got to fill the hole up a little bit and find a way, whether it's getting to the free throw line, getting people to baskets, setting up certain things that will, almost automatically get you those looks to the players that can get that ball in the basket at that moment. So a tough one. Offensive productivity will kill you, and obviously a tough go-around for the playoffs with the Valley.
And Spash almost got to the sectionals. They went to Eau Claire Memorial, a place they had won a couple of weeks ago in the regular season, but were trying to come from behind. They were down by about 10 points. They came back. Jada Seibert, again, had a terrific night, but in the end, Memorial eliminated Stevens Point 52-51. But, again, they have a Conference Player of the Year freshman that's returning. They have a second-team all-conference sophomore, and you got now a second-year head coach, Janelle McCarville. And it's not easy the first year, and especially I think at the bigger school level. McCarville had a bit of a slow start with her team. They were challenged in that conference, but you have to feel like, number one, the experience for her is going to be a big thing, and then you got experience for some very talented young players as well.
Yeah, I think those two things are two great things that go hand in hand. You learn so much from your first year to your second year with a specific program of what it takes to be successful, what you need to tweak, what you need to keep the same. There's just that constant evaluation that goes into the coaching role to make your program the best, and for the players to come back with another year of maturity, another year of strength, another year of what they could do in the offseason. That goes a long way. So to say in your first year you got to share the conference title, you finished with almost 20 wins, I think is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Overall for the conference at the end of the day, though, we still kind of keep trotting back to this tough Division I sectional here where the Valley teams never fare that well, and as it plays out where you'd like one of those teams to get that regional title to kind of have that feather in your cap that says we're doing things the way we need to do.
Marshfield almost again. They played a very competitive game Saturday at Hudson. Marshfield had defeated Holman on Friday 60-44, and then they went to Hudson and was nip and tuck, and then Hudson pulled away late to win 50-42. And again, I think just to piggyback on what you said, it's disappointing that one of the teams did not find a way. It was not a case where they both were blown out. Again, I think they were both very competitive. They both had a chance to win on the road against good opponents. But now you look at the Final Four in that bracket. You got Hortonville, Eau Claire Memorial, Neenah, and Hudson. You got two teams from the West. You got two teams from the East. In the big middle of the Wisconsin Valley Conference, we'll have to wait for another year.
Right, and for Spash, the seeds played out in who was supposed to beat who. Hudson comes in, who's always a good basketball team, and gets the upset not the upset. Sorry, Hudson gets the win with the seeds go the way they should. I guess is what
real
I'm trying
quickly before we move to D2, in the old system, Stevens Point would have played at home.
Yeah,
because they beat Eau Claire Memorial at Eau Claire Memorial.
Right.
And if it's that close normally, a 4 and a 5, the coaches would have said, "Hey, we beat you. We're going to be the 4." Right?
Right. Yep. Oh yeah. You would appealed till you got that, or till the appeals process was done, and definitely at the end of all that, you would have had your home game like you felt you deserved. But under the new system, you don't get that.
Nope,
it goes
you
to the
don't.
higher seed each time. But again, getting back to the point I guess I was trying to make is the higher seeds
let's
won
get
out.
to that point.
So
Spit it out.
The computer did its job. The seeds went the way it was. There wasn't upsets like you'd like to see.
D2, Lakeland battled. They won 70-69 over Rice Lake. I thought that Lakeland was going to win, I think, a little more easily because they had won at Rice Lake a couple of weeks ago. Rice Lake came in there and almost knocked them off. And next for Rice Lake will be, for Lakeland will be Menominee, another Big Rivers Conference opponent. Should be a massive game that's being played in Marshfield tomorrow night.
Well, definitely. And Lakeland's earned it. They've worked hard. That Rice Lake team, Coach Wimette talked about a little bit, wasn't going to be easy either time. But luckily, again, that's the beauty of the high school sports. Sometimes you get these teams in the regular season, kind of see what you want to show each other, what you're going to do to get that W, which is probably everything. And then the second time around, it's that game, that big chess match. What can you tweak? What can you throw at them a little differently? Or what do you have to do better that you can get them to make the mistakes on? So I think for Lakeland, sit in what they're expecting to do. One game at a time. Let's go accomplish. Let's use our size. Let's let Wimette get her point production. See if they can, if Menominee has a chance to keep her in check. I think those are going to be the key cogs for Lakeland to go get that win over in Marshfield tomorrow.
And the thing is, if they do get the win in Marshfield tomorrow, then they would have to probably play Notre Dame Academy, a game that we played at East on Saturday afternoon. So I think folks here in Central Wisconsin, they want to see some high-level basketball at 1 o'clock Saturday. If it is Lakeland and Notre Dame, I think it's well worth the price of admission.
Well, right, which would also be one just based on what's been shared with where people stand in the state and what they look at these teams as. I think it adds for some extra animosity in that game that makes it all worthwhile for Lakeland to go out and try to get the W.
And the thing about it as well, if you have an opportunity to see 2 of the 5 nominees for Miss Basketball, again, I love seeing the best play.
Yep.
Again, and that goes to the whole discussion of the state tournament and everything else. I think that seeing the best makes fans out of people. Again, you look at Caitlin Clark of Iowa. She's drawing these incredible crowds because she's lifted the level of play. Making it where everybody shows up is not going to grow the game. And I think, again, I hope that the East Gym, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of folks from these schools. But again, here in Central Wisconsin, if you have an opportunity, I would encourage you, because you got the 2 girls from Notre Dame, including Gracie Gresh, whose father was a Division I player as well. And then, of course, you got Christina Wimette and a couple of other bigs that are very impressive for Lakeland. Take advantage and go and see really high-level basketball. And I think that makes new fans as well.
Oh, yeah, I think you can appreciate the IQ you're going to see on the court and how those players execute and just the way they play, which is a level up. And I think it's also interesting because how often do you see 2 players from the same team? I mean, that's usually not the case where there's – I mean, it happens rarely.
Exactly. So. Man, that is very rare. You're so right. Division III, we talked about Wittenberg-Burnhamwood with their coach last week, and they did the job very impressively in the regionals. They defeated Wapaka easily on Friday, 59-26, and then they beat the Menominee Indian 66-36. So now – Whitburn takes on Freedom, number 1 seed versus number 2 seed, tomorrow in Oconto Falls. A win for the Chargers will put them in the sectional championship game in Brillion Saturday against either Xavier, number 1 seed, or Winneconne, number 6 seed. But again, this Whitburn team coming down the stretch has turned it up a notch. They are now dominating their opponents, which I think is exactly what you want to see as a coach, don't you? Well,
they're 24-2, and after we did the interview with Coach Nick, I thought things were – just the way he was making things out, it wasn't going to be, on paper it looks really easy. They blew some people out of the water. They went after Wapaka, 59-26. Menominee Indian, who they've already beat twice, won by 30, which playoff games, even if you beat somebody twice, seems to get a little closer. Menominee Indian was the number 4 seed. Mm-hmm. And to turn around and have those games, which I think is a big deal. They're sitting in a good spot and they're fighting through some things and playing through some differences in personnel. And usually, as coaches and with our players, you see an adjustment factor and you see some time that has to take place for those girls to get a different feel. Or like our coach talked about just on the interview a couple minutes ago was she mentioned adjusting to new spots, new responsibilities when somebody goes down. It's so for Wittenberg, I'm very impressed with the amount that they won by and how they're rolling right now off that injury and just playing really good basketball.
Division 4. You got Phillips, basically the representative, as it was a bit of a rough go of it for the Merriwood South, but the Merriwood North is still there. And Phillips, they survived in the regional final, defeating Cameron 79-73 in overtime. And now Phillips takes on McDonald. McDonald, of course, has been a team that's been very good in Division 4 for a number of years. They've been able to make, I think they've been between 5 and 4, because I think they played Assumption at the state tournament a few years back. So they've been sort of that going back and forth between the two divisions. But McDonald, they beat Stratford 85-41 Saturday. And then the top of the bracket has Regis and Fall Creek. So you got the old public versus private battle in that Division 4 bracket.
Which is always debatable. But for Phillips, again, we're talking records out here. They're 24-2 also. And just an outstanding job to finish off that, that regional title in OT, because that's never easy to do. And you get to do it in front of your home crowd as the number 2 seed versus the number 3. And I think there's something to be said when you can, most overtime games are 1 point, maybe 2 points if you're lucky. They're not. They got it out by 6, so they were able to stretch that and get control of that game, even though it took to overtime. And they're again one of the teams that I really, really saw this year against Newman, how well they ran the floor. Mm-hmm. The ball not being dribbled, it just moved, and you can see that in the point production that they get out of the girls, that they really push the ball up and down. And it'll be interesting to see where they fall against McDonald, because McDonald, you want to see something on paper. Those are some significant wins against some Merriwood South foes that they ran over early in that playoff run.
Division 5, we talked about Athens and Pittsville tomorrow night in Merrill. Athens, of course, beat Pacelli 56-52, and again, it was a battle because Athens had a 30-20 lead at halftime. Pacelli came back, and it was nip and tuck, and then on the road in a tough environment against a good basketball team, Athens was able to find a way. And Pittsville making their deepest run in a long time. I mean, back when I was first starting, back in the day, back in the early 2000s, they had some really good basketball teams, and they would face off with Newman back when Newman was making deep runs and winning state championships. It's been a long time for Pittsville. They defeated Greenwood 54-36. That first meeting we kind of referenced in the last segment.
Well, I found out about it just to
I know.
We got to joke around.
But the numbers were just poor for Athens throughout the course of that game. The coach said nearly 20 turnovers, 19 to be exact. I didn't bring that up. I thought it would be not good. But they were only 2 of 19 from three-point range. They were 11 of 24 from the free throw line. It feels like if Athens is able to tighten up, make a few more threes, maybe make a few more free throws, take care. And as the coach said, some of those turnovers were not forced turnovers, but unforced turnovers, that they lost 52-46. Says maybe that they have a little bit of room to go up. The ceiling is a little bit higher for Athens.
Well, and I think the toughest part that was off your final question, being in that bigger gym, that different environment. Now, both teams have to do it. Obviously, there's noise. The house will probably be packed. People are yelling. Teams get a little tight. So the team that can overcome that faster, where they realize that, hey, I'm still shooting on a 10-foot hoop with the same diameter of that rim, and can bank into that as a team, hunker down, run their offense, get those good, easy looks. Usually, gets that smooth flow, gets out to that lead. And I'm sure it's already been preached, as Coach alluded to when she was on here with her interview, that, we're going to cut down on those things. We've already talked about it. We're hungry. We're ready to go. So now it's just a matter of composure, coming out playing smooth, limiting those turnovers, looking for good shots. So I'm excited to see how they do, because I think that stat line right there, if you could take away some of those things and even minimize it, that can get you the W at this point in the sectional against a team you've already competed with.
Also in D5 from the Merriwood South, Assumption is still in there. They had a couple of rather easy wins. They defeated Fall River 75-43 and then Randolph 60-37. Things will get more difficult tomorrow night at Oshkosh West when they take on the number 2 seed Lord's Academy. A win in that game would lead to a sectional final on Saturday night at Hartford Union against either top seed Albany Monticello or Sheboygan Christian. But Assumption had a few hiccups coming down the stretch. I know some physical ailments as well, but again, so far, so good for Assumption.
Yeah, so even if do you know if those, are they back? Not sure. Yeah, so even what I'm saying is, even if they're out, they're still rallying around each other. They're significantly controlling the basketball the games are in. Lords will be a little bit different test. I mean, I always liked it when you went to the sectional and you got to play in your city. Just the travel time, the ability to already kind of know the atmosphere. You probably went and watched games there already as a team at times, or players and coaches. So I think sometimes that gives you a little bit nice advantage to
is an advantage.
be in your city for your sectional game, even though it's not at your own gym.
And finally, one note in D5, the one Cinderella team, Gilman. Gilman has won 3 road games to get to a sectional. The number 9 seed, they won at Lake Holcomb. They won at South Shore, the number 1 seed. And then they won at Hurley, the number 5 seed. So Gilman takes on Owen Withee, and I just thought I'd mention that because you don't see a lot of 9s right now left when you get to sectionals.
Yeah, no, that's I would obviously not witnessing how they're playing other than what you read for that stat line. It's still impressive to be continuing on, and again, if it's senior laden, they can be real dangerous at this time of the year.
And sometimes as well, what I think we may touch on later is that sometimes, again, with the computers, where it has such a heavy emphasis on wins and losses, it does not take into consideration totally the conference you're in or the schedule that you have. It does give you some credit for it, but still the wins and losses are by far the biggest weight of these seedings, aren't they?
Well, definitely. And even as you kind of go through that playoff bracket, when if you're on the right road and you're winning because you were a little underseeded and it helps. The number 1 seed's gone. So then you're getting different. Somebody else did the dirty work, and those roads help us. But yeah, I think sometimes you don't get quite the oomph factor that you should when you play that tougher schedule based on what the computer does.
We got another hour to go, and coming up after a 2-minute timeout, we're going to have our student athlete guest for this week from Wausau West High School, outstanding football and boys basketball player Brett Butalla. He'll be joining us coming up next. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
A busy weekend features state championships in hockey, gymnastics, and team wrestling. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by NFHSNetwork.com. More high school sports news after this.
Do you ever wish you could be in 2 places at once? With homework, carpool, practice, and everything else, sometimes you just can't make it to every game. But the NFHS Network's streaming platform makes that a little easier. For just $11.99 a month, you can watch unlimited high school sports live and on demand, at home or on the go. You can watch online or on one of our mobile or connected TV apps. Visit NFHSNetwork.com and subscribe today to never miss another game.
This is the busiest weekend of the Winter Sports Tournament Series, as not only do boys basketball teams continue on with regional action and girls hoops teams move into sectional play, but 3 sports are on to state championships. The WIAA Boys and Girls State Hockey Tournament begins Thursday at the Capital Ice Arena in Middleton. Boys Division II semifinals begin things Thursday, featuring New Richmond, St. Mary Springs, River Falls, and Tomahawk. Later that day, the girls will contest their semifinals, featuring co-op programs from DC Everest, River Falls, De Pere, and Sun Prairie West. Division I boys action is held on Friday, featuring Chippewa Falls, Notre Dame, Edgewood, and the Brookfield Co-op. Championship games for all divisions are held on Saturday. The team wrestling state tournament has been seeded, with state champions crowned at the venerable UW Fieldhouse in 3 divisions this weekend. Last year's champions are not only back once again, but each garnered a top seed. In Division I, Kaukauna is in search of a 4th straight crown. Luxembourg Casco is the returning D2 champ. Fenimore is trying to win a 3rd consecutive championship in Division III. The WIAA Gymnastics State Championships are scheduled for this weekend. Senior Annika Rufinach of Verona Edgewood is back as a 2-time defending state champion in the Division I all-around. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check out the WSN podcast this week for a full Boys Hoops playoff preview with Mark Miller.
So many wires. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. Time for our student athlete guest this week from Wausau West High School, Brett Butalla. And first of all, Brett, took a few opportunities to get you in here because sometimes you'd be practicing later in the evening on a Wednesday because the girls and the boys kind of flip-flopped at Wausau West. But great to finally have you be able to come and join us here tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, number one, we like to have multiple sport athletes in. And this year, as your senior year, you had a really solid football season and now a really good boys basketball season as well. When you started your senior year, starting with football, did you have any personal goals for this year to try to wrap up your high school athletic career on a high?
Honestly, I kind of went into football season just wanting to have fun and, I don't know, kind of duplicate what I did the year before.
And that's the thing. I mean, you started to turn the West football program around, and the last couple of years were very successful seasons for Wausau West. In terms of building as opposed to trying to maintain, what were the keys the last 2 years on the football side before we get to basketball in terms of turning the Wausau West football program into conference champions and threats into the postseason?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that really helped the team was the weight room became a lot bigger, and the off-season guys really hit that a lot harder, and we just noticed a big difference in kids' development from the previous year, and that really helped us.
We'll turn to Mr. Basketball here.
Well, I was going to ask, I always, when I coach.
And actually, you do coach football as well.
Yeah,
so,
well, I like the multiple sport athlete because I just think that's a big deal. I think if you're able to do that, and I know some guys and girls for whatever reason have their focus on one sport, but I just think I don't know. I guess for you, how important is it to be a multi-sport athlete? I mean, who wants to do one? You get to play all these other ones. They feed into each other in different ways. What do you think about being a multiple sport athlete?
Yeah, I think that's huge, and just I think one sport kind of adds to another sport, and so I just think for the kids that play multiple sports, they first of all don't really get worn out from playing one sport all year long, and then just for me personally, like the physicality of football to basketball, that really helped me a lot, and I think just doing different things throughout the year can really add.
And I don't know, so I'll just do you do anything in the spring then?
I play golf just kind of for fun.
Little less physical.
Yeah, but you don't rest. That's
You're
what I was going to ask. What do you do for this? Because most guys, if they go to, they got something else going on that they can't sit still. They want to do something else. So that's cool, though. That I think less regrets, more opportunities, well-versed as you go on, and I think focusing on one is not the right way to go. I think.
How good are you on the links, by the way?
I can be pretty good.
Well, let's be okay. How good? Do you think that because it's very interesting. I'm going to get off on a tangent here with the golf because when you look at the Wisconsin Valley Conference, you have these conference meets at multiple courses. And I think how many are there? There's a number of them, aren't there?
There's a lot.
I mean, really, like 5 or 6. I mean, it's really you have to be pretty consistent and pretty good. What level are you? Do you think you can be competing near the top of the valley when we get to? Actually, you could be golfing later this weekend because I know the golf courses have started opening. But what level are you on the golf course?
The last 2 years, I played JV. I kind of just it's more of a thing I do for fun.
All right.
After football and basketball, I'm kind of ready just for a rest. But,
well, I mean, being part of the all-conference sheets in both football and basketball, I mean, making 3 would be almost greedy.
I definitely put a lot of time into the other sports, but I mean, if I really set my mind to it, I can play pretty good.
Let's talk about the basketball season because you're the leading scorer right now for the Warriors. You've had a really solid campaign, and it's been an interesting year for Wausau West because, again, like the football team, the basketball team has taken some major strides forward this year. I think 15 wins, if I'm not mistaken, and, boy, you've had some really tough losses. I mean, just 2 in overtime here this month, and then I think a game against Eau Claire North earlier that also could have gone the other way. Very close to knocking on the door of close to 20 wins. What's been the key, before we talk about you specifically, about the team in terms of taking a step forward here this season?
I think a big thing with our team this year is we just have a really close group of guys, and we've all kind of been together for a long time, and that's really helped us. We all know each other. We kind of know how we play, and I don't know. I just think that was a big part of our team this year that helped us.
How about from you're a senior, you've seen a lot. You're old age now for in terms of in terms of high school, and you've seen a lot there. How about for you over the years? How have you seen your role? What it's morphed into, or leadership roles growing from the time you were younger till the time you got on varsity, till the time you take more control because you're one of the leaders on the team. What have you seen? How have you seen your game grow?
Yeah. I mean, going back even to middle school, I think I was just kind of a part of the team. I mean, not really anything special, but freshman year I played JV2 freshman basketball, and I was kind of the leader of that team. And then I really worked a lot on the off season. And my sophomore year, I ended up being on varsity and started getting more minutes. And that was more. I was more of a defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really have a big role on offense, but kind of gave us a spark here and there. Mm-hmm. And I think I actually started my last game of the season because I started to pick up a little bit more of a role. And then my junior year, I was more of a leader on that team. Kind of had to pick up the scoring a little bit from the seniors that had graduated the previous year, and so I think I picked that role up pretty well. And then this year, I've really taken the role of leader, and kind of tried to pick up again the scoring from the previous year.
Again, we're talking to Brett Butalla from Wausau West High School here on Bull Falls Radio. And I think you hit it on the head in terms of the process of your varsity basketball career. And this year especially, and I know even talking to Coach Lemons, that you are somebody that when maybe there's a couple of empty possessions or there's a point in the basketball game where your team needs a basket, you are looked upon as somebody that is able to get the shot and be confident that you're going to be able to get a good look in and more times than not make the shot. The mentality of that, knowing that you're looked at in that way, that when there is maybe a tight spot in a basketball game, that they're going to look to you to make something happen. How do you go about not just the physical aspect, but the mental aspect of having that kind of role in the team? Because I think it is a different kind of role than maybe you've had previously. Did you come into this season thinking, hey, in these kind of spots, I'm going to have to kind of step up maybe in a way that was different than the past couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. I think that comes from just the amount of time and energy and just everything I put into basketball outside of official practices and just doing things on my own. I think that's really helped. Just being confident that I know I've done that a ton of times. So being in that position doesn't really, I guess, faze me.
It's muscle memory, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And we'll obviously hit on your playoff opponent in a little bit, but how I look at it, when gaps in a schedule can be a good thing. And you guys, you have a significant win over Wittenberg, but that was February 19th, which seems ages ago, which was just last Monday. But it's been a lot of time, and sometimes that's, coaches have to keep things going. Players are just ready for games because you've been practicing for 4 months anyways, and you want games, you want to play. Have you guys done anything to kind of make that time move faster, keep you guys hungry, keep your team rolling on the strengths of how you guys play and what you bring to the court? Anything that's changed up in this long time, or just business as usual?
Yeah, our coaches this year have put a little bit more emphasis on just giving our bodies a rest here and there. So we kind of did that. We've had a couple lighter practices, and then we had off on Monday, so that kind of just helped us to reset a little and give our bodies a little break. But besides that, we've been straight to it pretty much.
And as a group, are you ready to go? You got to be ready, right? You got to be hard, because if we want to play a game, we want to stop beating on each other in the same colored jersey.
Definitely.
It's been that way this year. It's been a really interesting year because you've had a lot of bus trips.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've been around Wausau West basketball for a lot of years, and I don't know if I've seen a year where you've been, significant road trips. And is that an advantage? Because if things go the way you want them to go this weekend, you'll be likely going to Kyncaide Friday and then likely going to Eau Claire on Saturday. Does having that experience, having the bus rides with the guys, having with your teammates, with your coaches, does that help you in any way going into Friday night?
Yeah, I think December actually we had maybe one home game only, so we were traveling a lot, and I think that definitely does help. Just we went through a good winning stretch during that period, and so I think knowing that we can do that really helps, and having experience in that helps a lot. So definitely.
And we talked off air, or you mentioned off air a little bit, and sort of Chad a little bit, like maybe a little underseated. Maybe the computer didn't do exact justice of what you felt you could possibly be deserving of, which is fair. Do you think? Does that thought cross your mind that we're going to come in with a little chip on our shoulder because you gave us some ammo to go fight a little harder because you didn't put us where we believe, or is that not in the thought process, and it's more about the execution and just keeping even keel and being ready right from the get-go and eliminating some mistakes that have hurt us in other games in the past?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we all kind of thought right away, but since then we've kind of tried to put it behind us and just continue to do what we do and play how we play.
And jumping into that game tomorrow, for your team to be successful, have a good game, come out with the W, what's one thing that you think you guys really have to do well on, that this is going to be our strength throughout the game, that this is what is going to be?
Did you say tomorrow?
Or sorry, Friday.
Because if he goes to Kyncaide
don't
tomorrow,
go to Kyncaide tomorrow. I'm all off of my days. I know it's Friday. That I
just like making sure that you are accurate
on my day. Yeah, I have to. Anyways, now I got to get back to where I was. All right, just one thing you think that for Friday, that you have to you as a team, we have to have this execution on this. This is going to give Kyncaide a headache, and then one maybe thing that we can't let this happen because this is going to be something that might bring us down.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for us is just us being physical, because that just adds a whole nother level to our game. And so the games that we've been really physical, it's been completely different, and we've been a whole different team. So I think that's the important thing for us. And I mean, with them having some pretty big players, one of the big things that we got to prevent them from doing is just rebounding and getting second chance points. I think that'll be huge if we can limit them to one shot.
And have you been able to? I know sometimes that's hard. When you don't have like a 6'7" kid sitting on the practice squad or another guy to battle against, that's sometimes tough to recreate. Anything you guys have been doing to get acclimated with banging on the boards a little bit, watch it, getting an extra elbow in the back, whatever it might be that because you got to hit the boards heavy and we got to clean the glass a lot. Anything you've been doing in practice to kind of get more acclimated to that, or has it just been the constant mindset of what the coaches are preaching and you guys are thinking about?
A little bit of both. We've really put a lot of emphasis on that throughout the week of just box out, and really trying to do that on every possession. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's definitely a mentality that we've been just thinking about throughout the week. But I mean, our scout guys really are rebounding as hard as they can, so that kind of gives us a little bit of a look, but not really anything exactly what we'll see. So
let's step away from the court a little bit. What's your favorite class? There's no wrong answer. There is not a wrong answer here, because I think sometimes they think, oh, they want to hear something. No, what is the favorite class? Well, one that you want to go to.
I always like business classes.
Oh, very good. And in terms of, are you hoping to continue to be involved in athletics at the next level?
Yeah, I would like to play basketball. I'm still not sure where, but that's a goal of mine. So,
after what you've been able to accomplish so far this season, have you had some communication with some colleges?
Yeah, definitely more football.
Oh.
I've gotten more interest in that. I think football is a sport that they kind of come to you a little more, and basketball you have to go kind of search. But
well, let me ask you then. I mean, it implies there that maybe you have more of a love for basketball. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I definitely want to play basketball.
Why basketball? What? Not to compare it with football, but generally, what is it about basketball that maybe fits your DNA perfectly?
I don't know. I just love it. That's it. Yeah.
And the thing about it, what you were saying earlier, is that when you love something, then you're willing to work at it.
Right.
Where it doesn't feel like work. You're not looking at the clock or anything like that. And it sounds like with basketball that you said it. You just did it over and over again, and that helped your game. And the conference season is obviously over, and now you're coming down the stretch. Has there been a favorite opponent, games that have been the most special, whether in football or basketball, that really get you going?
I mean, any conference game is really gets you going, but I don't know. For me, it was kind of Everest. I thought that I just liked playing them in the previous years, and so coming into those games this year, it was just one that I really look forward to every conference game. But those were just some of the ones that I like playing.
Sure.
It feels maybe been I don't know if this is the right word, but fun is what I'm going to say. But a little more fun because just from what I've seen, I mean, when you're battling in your own conference, it's always tough. Everybody comes and gets after each other as best they can any given night from top to bottom. But just from what we've seen from year to year, it just looked like it was a little tougher. Everybody's a little bit more. It showed up in some of the seeds, some of the way teams finish out in their non-conference schedules, and I thought the Valley was just a little stronger pound for pound this year from bottom to top. Did you see that, or do you guys think about that? Do you see that or is it no matter what, because it's our conference, we're going to war every given night, we can't take anybody for granted?
Yeah, I kind of thought that same thing, that our conference was just really tough this year in general, and I mean, we finished I think fourth in the conference, but I mean, the top 3 teams were ranked pretty high in the state, so it wasn't something that we really looked down on ourselves for. It was just, I mean, it was a tough conference. So.
Well, you look at those 3 teams. You got Marshfield, a number 1 seed, Stevens Point, a number 2 seed in D1, and then East is a number 1 seed in Division 2. So it obviously did work out that way. Exactly what you said.
Yep.
Do you have a most favorite memory, a sports memory during your years at Wausau West?
The playoff game in football against Rapids, my junior year, that was pretty cool because we tied them in conference, and then that was kind of like the winner is really the conference winner. So winning that game was pretty cool. I had a play on the end of the game that kind of sealed it, and so I don't know. That was pretty cool for me.
Well, and with all the time, now that you're a senior, done 4 years in both football and basketball, graduation doesn't. We always say it doesn't stop. It's coming. What are you going to miss most about your high school athletic career when it's all said and done, and you move on to your next stage in life?
Yeah. For me, probably just like going to practice and just being with the guys every day. I mean, that's pretty cool and something you won't really. I guess unless you play in college, but high school is just a little different. Just the atmosphere. It's pretty fun every day just to be with them.
If you get to choose, you mentioned you got undecided on some things for college. Are you one of those types of people that venturous, flexible? I'll go down to Florida if that's a good fit for me, or are you more of a homebody? You're gonna stick around the state or the Midwest? You haven't ranged down to that at all?
Yeah, I think I'll stay in Wisconsin.
Okay. And then you said business was one of your favorite classes. If you had not that you have to be decided on anything, obviously, but if you had to pick a major, is that the area you'd like to go into because it piques your interest, or is there physical therapy or anything you're thinking about as possible occupation or higher education that you want to take on when you go to college?
Yeah, I think I'll go into business and I feel like there's a lot of outlets from that and see where that takes me.
And finally, we always ask our student athletes one question, especially for seniors who have been around, and you've obviously been around in multiple sports and have a lot of experience. But if you could give one piece of advice to a young student that may be just starting their athletic endeavors at Wausau West High School, whether a freshman or a sophomore, maybe this one piece of advice that you've learned over these last few years, what would that be?
Definitely just to put in the work on the off season and when you don't feel like it and when no one's really there watching. I think that's the biggest thing that helped me to get to where I am, and I think something that everyone should try to focus on.
Well, you've had a lot of great success both on the gridiron and on the hardwood, hopefully on the greens as well coming up this spring. But, Brett, really appreciate you coming on by. Looking forward to seeing you and your teammates on Friday night over in Kyncaide. Hoping for a nice little run here in the postseason. But thanks again for coming on by.
Yeah, definitely.
Brett Butalla from the Wausau West Warriors. We're going to take a break, come back, and talk about is it still boys basketball playoffs? Yeah, I think we have to go through that.
And some hockey. Hockey.
I know. It all runs together here, but we're going to do that coming up next here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
We are the NFHS, That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
If you're looking for your next ride, check out Mankey GMC in Schofield. Formerly Fred Miller Automotive, Mankey GMC serves Schofield, Wausau, Marshfield, and Stevens Point with a huge selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Explore a range of top-notch SUVs like Acadia, Terrain, and Yukon, or choose from the rugged Sierra truck lineup, or even a certified pre-owned vehicle. No matter your dream vehicle awaits at Mankey GMC, 448 Grand Avenue in Schofield, and online at MankeyAuto.com. Mankey GMC in Schofield, where your journey begins.
Got muscle? Athletes of all levels need to train to build muscle and rebuild and repair muscle after they practice and compete. Containing 13 nutrients, white and low-fat chocolate milk's high-quality protein offers athletes an edge over traditional sports and other protein drinks. That's why so many professional athletes include milk as a core part of their training diet and recommend milk for aspiring athletes as well. Learn more at GonnaNeedMilk.com. Brought to you by the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes, and it's actually kind of, bittersweet to think that we're coming down to the last few weeks and the last few of these student athletes and coaches for the year, because, again, we started during football back in August, and again at the end of the year I always put a list together of all the coaches and all the student athletes, and again we've had such a great number, and I'm very happy to always give these terrific young people and terrific coaches opportunities. And again, I mean, in fact, today we had a student athlete, young person, and we had a fairly young coach, and you can see the excitement of Kyncaide Keefe being an Athens grad and helping her alma mater now have a chance with a couple of wins. You can almost taste state.
Yeah.
Again, two really good conversations, and really happy to have both on the show.
Well, and that's what it's about, is that discussion. I mean, I think it's just gotta. You don't know how giddy they are, but it's got to be awesome to come here and brag about the kids you get to work with, and do it in an environment of where they're having success and they're getting to share those moments, and for the athletes to reflect on a career if they're a senior, or reflect on what they've done this season, and in so many ways. I think just the conversations, again, we always say this is the best part about this show, is to get a picture of those programs and teams and what the athletes and coaches are seeing, because I think that's what really makes high school sports go, is what they're able to do night in and night out.
Let's talk about hockey, because tomorrow I'm heading down to Madison for the state hockey tournament and covering the Central Wisconsin Storm. And also, real quickly, I want to let people know, tune into my program. I do a daily show from 8 until 10 a.m. here on Bull Falls Radio, and coming up tomorrow morning at 9:34, exactly 9:34, I will have an interview with the 4 captains of the Central Wisconsin Storm. I'll be talking to Ava Rohde. We're going to be talking to Julia DeBile, Tristan Wickland, and also to Maddie DePoit. So I had a chance to, at practice before they headed down to Madison. They headed down to Madison today to be able to talk to the 4 captains in a little roundtable discussion, and we'll have that coming up tomorrow morning at 9:34. And then tomorrow afternoon at 4:35 p.m. I'll be back on the air for the semifinals of the state tournament. Central Wisconsin Storm taking on the Cap City Cougars. The second semifinal tomorrow night at 7:30, the St. Croix Valley Fusion and the Bay Area Ice Bears. And Bay Area, in fact, is the defending state champs. But it was a big seeding meeting. In fact, I had a chance to talk as well earlier this week to Jana Wimmer, and we had that interview on the program yesterday here on my show in the morning. So if you go back to the archive for that, you can listen to that. But she said it was a battle. It was a battle. It was a vote on Sunday morning, and because you got three teams that are perennial powers: the Storm, the Fusion, and the Ice Bears, and then you got this Cinderella. And how rare it is to see a team that is not having a great record make state.
Right.
Well, the Cap City Cougars, they went into the playoffs with a 7-16-1 record. And they won 3 games in a row, and they were able to win on the road 3 times in a row. They beat the number 1 seed in overtime. They beat the number 2 seed in overtime, and now they're at the state tournament. So, but again, if you're the Storm, you'd rather be playing them than these other 2 teams, because those are they played both St. Croix Valley and Bay Area in the regular season, and they split. They were 1-1 against St. Croix Valley. They were 1-1 against Bay Area. So it's a really strong tournament with 3 of these teams, and I think it's the reason we have 3 really strong teams is because 3 really strong teams were in the Storm's bracket. And last weekend, and I'm sure you were tuned in Friday night, as the Storm played Superior, the number 1 ranked team in the state. Storm went off to a 3-0 lead. Superior came back. They pulled their goalie. They scored the game-tying goal with 44 seconds to go in regulation. But then very quickly in overtime, Superior took 2 penalties. It was a 5-on-3 power play, and Maddie DePoit, one of the Storm captains, was able to score the game winner. 4-3 in overtime. It was a really fun hockey game, great hockey game, and the Storm beat the number 4 ranked team in the state and the number 1 ranked team in the state to earn their spot in the tournament. And it should be a fantastic tournament. Tomorrow's semifinals and championship on Saturday.
Well, and I think, a couple of things come to mind in your discussion there is
my monologue.
The what was it? Was it Cap City team?
Cap City Cougars.
Cougars, yeah. The fact there again, that's a moment that makes things kind of special to get down there when you're not expecting
and 2
it.
overtime games in a row. I mean, you talk about
when you're just you're just rolling and you're in the zone and you're in the moment.
Yeah.
How much fun can that be? Is what I was thinking when you're talking about that.
And you got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I mean, all the pressure becomes on the other team. For the Central Wisconsin Storm, again, the road they took to get there. You've mentioned numerous times in our conversations how difficult that bracket is. The teams they got to roll through. How it's unfortunate that some of these better teams that all could be down there have to dog it out to get there, and for them to do that is that much significance. Just to get there is a big deal. Now, going back to playing the Cinderella, that's tough. You're supposed to win that, but they're rolling a little bit. So I guess I would, as a coach, I would want it where I get a team I haven't seen. And I get to go try to see where we match up, even if they're rolling a little bit, because we're going to put in the things in place that we got to do to control that game and get the victory. So,
and it really is an interesting field because, again, these teams have faced off against each other. And that's one of the things about girls hockey. There are not a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So you play each other, and the good teams tend to get together and play each other. And to see 2 of these other teams, and normally that never happens where you play multiple times in the season, and to be 1-1 against St. Croix Valley, 1-1 against Bay Area, and a potential state championship game on Saturday. Again, I just think it's going to be a wide open tournament. I think that obviously the Storm have the advantage of, I think if they play well, they should advance. Again, sometimes in hockey, you can outshoot a team. I mean, in fact, Cap City in their sectional final, they got outshot like 45-24, and because they have a freshman goalie that stood on her head and was able to allow just 1 goal, and and that's the thing with hockey. If you're a football team and you're outgained 400-100, it would take a lot of turnovers and a lot of really weird things to happen for you not to win the game. If you're a basketball team that has just, constantly the pressure on and much better talent, it's hard to lose in a situation like that. But in hockey, you have that one player that can step up and basically be a complete game changer. And I've seen it many times over the years. So, again, that's always that wild card with hockey. But it will be tomorrow, 4:35 airtime. Again, you can tune in right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 12:30. And then if the Storm win, I'll be back in Madison on Saturday at 1:35 for the pregame, 2 o'clock for the opening faceoff. And also want to mention the boys, there's one team from north central Wisconsin that made it, and it's Tomahawk. And good for Tomahawk. They have not made state since 1991. They beat Mosinee in the sectional final, really whipped them in Mosinee, 8-2. And Tomahawk has struggled. I mean, in boys basketball, they've had a really rough go of it. In girls basketball, they've had a rough go of it. They've had pretty rough go of it in football. And for Tomahawk to have a sport like a really significant sport like hockey and to make the state tournament, good for that community, good for that school. I'm sure they're going to be filling up their portion of a very small venue. Again, this Bob Suter's Capitol Ice Arena is very small. It's gonna be a packed house,
right?
But I would like it to be a little bigger. Again, I think it's something we've talked about with BJ Brandt when you've taken vacations and
and you need more hockey.
There you go. But I think again, I'm curious. This is the second year at Bob Suter's Capitol Ice Arena. There were some issues last season, including where they placed the radio broadcasters. I'm hoping to have a better point of view because it was very difficult to see at the far end. And they had some internet issues, and they've also spread out the games because they clear out the arena for every game because it's so small.
Right.
And they have wider time frames. So, again, they're making some changes. I'm curious to see how it goes. But, again, good for Tomahawk. I really like to see a school community that hasn't had a chance to celebrate and have a trip to Madison and a chance to go to the state tournament like this.
Yeah, well, the team's just going off my knowledge of what I remember. Tomahawk volleyball was kind of a big thing for a little while.
Volleyball has
but
been
other
the
than
one,
that, you like you've mentioned, they've struggled in some of their sports, and I think it gives you something to rally around, and it's important for those players, those coaches, and all the time they put in that the community comes out and supports that. So, you hope when you have a big city that everybody shows up, everybody takes some time to come support those student athletes and what they were able to accomplish, and for them, it's not, they don't get a certificate for this, but they're one of the final teams standing on the boys' start in our area, and to find that success and get down there, that's a big deal and a big accomplishment. So we wish them the best of luck in their game.
And Tomahawk plays bright and early. The first game of the tournament tomorrow at 9 a.m., taking on the defending state champs and the number 1 seed, New Richmond. And then game number 2 tomorrow in Division 2 on the boys' side, St. Mary Springs and River Falls. So that's D2. And then Division 1 semifinals on Friday. Number 1 seed Chippewa Falls. They eliminated Stevens Point on Saturday 4-0. Spash continues a rather long stretch without a trip to state in hockey, despite having very good teams every year. Chippewa Falls on Friday will take on Brookfield, and Notre Dame Academy, the defending state champs, will take on Edgewood in game number 2 on Friday. And then all 3 championship games will be played on Saturday. Division 2 at 9:30 a.m., the girls at 2, and then the boys at 7. And they've actually split them up a lot more than they did in the past. So, again, if you have a chance, tune in to our girls hockey broadcast tomorrow and tune in Saturday as well if we have the Storm, or just be able to tune in on television as well Saturday. So a lot going on in hockey and a lot going on in boys basketball. We have to talk about the playoffs, which got underway yesterday in boys high school basketball. So we're going to turn our attention to that and then look ahead at the matchups in the regional semifinals and potentially in the regional finals coming up next. We'll be back in 2 minutes here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
Winter sports are here. Align your young athletes and yourself with health by scheduling an appointment with Dr. Sarah at Shine Chiropractic in Rib Mountain. Stay in the game with our comprehensive 3-point neurological exam, safe for the entire family. Don't let the daily grind keep you and your student athletes on the sidelines this year. Call Dr. Sarah at 715-298-5104. That's 715-298-5104 in Rib Mountain today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services, whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing. They print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small, so give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes. That'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Wisconsin, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Well, last night was the start of the high school basketball playoffs, and then really get into it starting on Friday with the regional semifinals in all 5 divisions. Let's start with Division 1. Last night there was one area team involved in D1, and I don't know if you know the details of this game, but looks like it was a crazy game. Wisconsin Rapids and Chippewa Falls, and there's 18 teams in a sectional in D1. I mean, that's a lot of. I mean, you talk about if you get through a bracket like that, 18 teams, it's very difficult. And the 15, 16, 17, and 18 teams have to play in the regional quarterfinals. And Wisconsin Rapids, number 16, hosted number 17 Chippewa Falls last night. And the Lincoln Red Raiders came out, and they led 39-18 at halftime. Game over, right?
Well, yeah, and we've seen against some of the other Valley teams, Chippewa Falls has struggled this year in some of those games.
Yes, but they've also – it shows the depth, because I saw them play West, and the game went to overtime. I mean, it was and they beat Merrill just a couple weeks ago by about 40 points. Yeah. But Rapids came out, and they were up by 21 at halftime. Think, all right, we're going to get ready to go to Marshfield on Friday night.
Right.
But Chippewa Falls came back and outscored Rapids 51-25 in the second half to pull out.
Not a good stat line.
Yeah, a 69-64 win. So Chi-High moves on to take on Marshfield. Sean Reynes 23, Brody Gilbertson 15, Trading Cleary 14. Wow, I mean, again, it shows that a team could be down on the road. It's been a tough year for Chi-High. Got to give that team a lot of credit to battle in the second half in Rapids last night and be able to turn it around and get a big W.
Well, and to do it on the road, to do it, obviously you're down that amount of points. Things aren't going the way you want. Sometimes you can't. You've already had bouts of losing where you've accepted it a little bit, probably. So how are your players going to react? What are you going to dig down to do? And whatever they did to finish that game out, that's an impressive run to outscore a team by that amount of margin to finish the game off and come up with the W on the road. I mean, you're going into gyms when you're on the road, depending on the opponent. You consider yourself down 10. It could be a lot more depending on the talent pool that you're playing. So always interesting ones, I think, that you see over the years with that 17-16 battle.
Well, looking at the regional finals in D1 on Friday, Marshfield, number 1, hosting number 17 Chippewa Falls. The winner of that one would move on to play Saturday against either number 9 Kimberly or number 8 Appleton North. You got number 12 Wausau West at number 5 Kaukauna. Again, 6:50 airtime right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Listen to me. Don't be watching anybody else. The winner of that one will then move on to Saturday against either number 13 Appleton East or number 4 Eau Claire Memorial. Bottom of the bracket, you got number 15 Holman, who beat number 18 Appleton West last night, 73-49. They traveled to number 2 Stevens Point. The winner of that one moves on to take on the winner of the game on Friday between number 10 DC Everest. They travel to number 7 Hudson. You got number 11 Eau Claire North against number 6 Neenah, and number 3 Superior hosting number 14 Hortonville. But looking at the Valley teams, looking at those games, what jumps out?
Well, I'm interested to see how Everest is going to do on the road. We've talked about their schedule. We've talked about them coming under the radar a little bit. They finished with a nice regular season win in double digits versus Rapids for the conference. So I'm interested to see how they're going to go up there and if they're able to, kind of nip and tuck one away at Hudson over there. Does Chippewa Falls have any momentum to gain coming into Marshfield with that number 1 seed? I mean, we've talked last year was a real mess in this bracket. So based on seeding, the
16
seeding,
beat 1.
Yeah, the seeding didn't matter. So I'm sure people have mentioned that. So it'd be interesting to see if they can continue a little bit of that momentum. Not knowing enough about Holman, I want to see if how Spash does there, and then I'm excited to see just talking to Brett Butalla and knowing how Coach Lemons likes to do things, and the spark he puts into those kids, just how they're gonna be well prepared going over there. I think the thing that we talk about, so the defense is going to be solid. They already know the physicality they got to play with. Is their offensive end going to be able to keep up with what it needs to do to match Kaukauna over there? But again, you got nothing to lose going to these away games.
And it's also such an interesting weekend. You can't even celebrate really Friday because you got to go right at Saturday. I mean, a playoff win is such a big deal, but boy, this regionals every year we talk about this. You have to then go right back at it. A team like West, say West goes to Kaukauna, I think it's very possible. Go to Kaukauna on Friday, then likely go to number 4 Eau Claire Memorial then on Saturday. And for all these teams, we've seen some years where a team has to go to Superior one night and then go to Appleton East another night. I mean, it's really it's a great challenge this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no rest time because you want to get the win, but the win requires just a ton of work after you're done because you're into that next game film. You're maybe peeking at your other game film just a little bit from a coaching standpoint to see if anything you can still improve on, and you're diving in the next opponent. Your players are celebrating, but then they got to come in possibly for a shoot around, a little walkthrough, and you got to have all that ready. They got to get a good night's sleep. They got to be ready to go because it means your season. So as much fun as the win is, there's still a lot of stress and pressure, but at the same time, that win carries some momentum into that next game for everybody's excitement level and confidence level.
And I think finally for D1, it is, I think, important for the Wisconsin Valley Conference for those top 2 seeds to make it to the sectionals.
Well, I think it allows you to, stand on your ground that we've earned these seeds because we've already mentioned it's been a mess there. They haven't had the highest seeds from the Valley over the last couple of years in this sectional. So I think holding your spot that you were given based on or earned, I should say, that the computer spit out is a big deal going forward and trying to get those regional titles.
And a perfect way for the Valley would be for Stevens Point to win and DC Everest to win at Hudson. That means it would be Everest at Stevens Point on Saturday, and that would mean one of the teams would definitely make it to the sectionals.
Right, definitely.
Division 2, Merrill last night defeated Ashland 57-45. So that means a Wisconsin Valley Conference rematch at Wausau East coming up on Friday night. Rhinelander last night continues their momentum after sharing the GNC championship. Number 5 Hodags beat number 12 Hayward last night, 65-40. So they traveled to number 4 Rice Lake. So 1 versus 8, East hosting Merrill. 5 versus 4, Rhinelander at Rice Lake. The 2 winners then will meet at the higher seed on Saturday. Also yesterday, Medford, number 6 seed, defeated number 11 Antigo, 65-50. So Medford advances to play at New Richmond on Friday. And Menominee, number 10 seed, 3-11 in the Big Rivers this season. 7-17 overall going into the game. They went to Minocqua and rolled past Lakeland 60-40. So Menominee is at River Falls. And then the bottom of the bracket, Mosinee is number 3. Different regional. Mosinee will play Seymour. Seymour last night beat Toma. So Mosinee hosting Seymour Friday night. A win for Mosinee. Then they would advance to play on Saturday against either Fox Valley Lutheran, the number 2 seed, or number 7 La Crosse Central. So as we look at D2, a lot of area teams involved in what will be a busy Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, for starters, the closest to our area. Interested to see East get rolling again and having that number one spot and earned after
Third meeting with Merrill.
Yeah, and see what adjustments those coaches make, because they've seen each other and they know each other well. So I think that's a good spot for East to host a playoff game and kind of control their destiny at that number one seed and get some W's there, and the home wins is something I'm sure they're looking forward to. For Merrill, they started off in a nice win right away against Ashland, and now we go back to East. Rhinelander's going to be interesting against Rice Lake. They've kind of hit a little bit of a good stretch here with some of the W's. They beat some of the heavy contenders in their conference, and so I'm sure the confidence level, the high that they're on of the recent success with finding consistency in the win category is going to bring them into that game. They got to go do it on the road, but at this point, kids know what they're supposed to be running. The coaches are controlling it a little bit, but they have to put in all the dirty work. So things have been established. It'll be interesting to see how Mosinee is, because they're in a little bit different part of the bracket than they're normally in with all these Division II teams, to see how they do down there against the Seymours and possibly you said La Crosse Central, and who was the other one?
Fox Valley Lutheran, number 2. They would have to go there on Saturday.
Yeah, going over there is never an easy area in that Division II bracket either.
And La Crosse Central's got a great tradition, and they're number 7 seed. Again, you wonder sometimes about, again, in something that I guess I can bring it up right now, sometimes these seedings are not perfect.
No.
Based on what conference you're in and what kind of schedule. A lot is based on, again, the one-loss record. I would not be surprised to see, again, a lower seed somehow surprise.
Well, that's, because like you said, there's some things that aren't accounted for in terms of the strength that you might see in your conference, in terms of the battle test you have. I still think when you're a lower division in your conference, that's a big deal. If you're a D2 team playing against a bunch of D1s, if you're a D5 playing against a bunch of D4s like some of our area teams are, I think that goes a long way. I think for East, I think playing some of these D1 teams throughout their conference schedule, that's a big deal when they jump into here. And I obviously got a common opponent in Merrill, but if able to get past them, you're going to see some teams you haven't seen, and I think you're going to have a strength of schedule based on your conference schedule, getting you tougher and ready for those playoffs.
Division 3, just not too much activity in our area. You got Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, a number 5 seed, that last night they started their run, beating number 12 Tomahawk 75-33, so Tomahawk can focus on the hockey. Then Wittenberg-Burnhamwood will be at Wapaka coming up on Friday. Also in that part of the bracket, Amherst, number 8 seed, beat number 9 Northern Pines 43-35. They travel to number 1 Freedom. So Whitburn at Wapaka. Again, Whitburn is, again, I sometimes think a team like that, they played West last week. They played Marathon the Monday before that. They play a lot of tough non-conference teams, so they hung around 500, but their conference record was better than their overall record. So I'm curious to see if they have a little bit extra in a game against a number 4 seed.
Right, and and they Rognowski, who fills it up pretty good 3-point shooter, averages close to 20 points a game. So that guys like that can.
He's named Jet. He's got to score.
Yeah, well, guys like that can put the ball in the basket that way are always you're a 3-pointer away from taking control of the game and things like that. So he. Interesting to see how they'll do being just a little bit out of our area.
Division 4, again, a lot of Merriwood Conference South Division squads, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Sectional 2 bracket. Marathon on Friday will take on Colby. Colby last night defeated number 9 Crandon, 91-60. Marathon and Colby Friday night. Tom Weaver will have the call on the Sports 2 stream of BowFallsRadio.com and on the Civic Media app at 6:45 for the pregame. And that game will also air on delay after the Wausau West game here on Bow Falls Radio. The winner of the Marathon Colby game on Saturday will advance to take on either number 4 Stratford or number 5 Washburn. Washburn defeated Abbotsford last night, 72-34. Edgar, the number 3 seed, will take on number 6 Iola Scandinavia. Iola beat number 11 Shawamigan 64-53 last night. And the winner of Edgar Iola will take on the winner of Phillips and Auburndale. Auburndale, number 2 seed. Phillips last night, number 7 seed, beat number 10 seed Spencer 65-60. So on Saturday, my question to you is, will we see all Merriwood Conference teams in those regional finals?
I'd like to think so. Did Marathon already beat Colby?
Yes, they
not?
did.
So Marathon beat Colby, and so they'll do it again. Auburndale already beat Phillips, so they'll do it again. Not knowing enough about Stratford, again, played well. They beat Assumption in their last conference game significantly over there. And Assumption had been playing a little better with
Stratford had beat Auburndale before that.
Yep. So I think Stratford's in a good spot to take that spot. Edgar has already beaten Iola Scandinavia. I think it was 53-36 earlier in the regular season. So, again, I know it's playoffs, but there's moments I think if you can control that game once, you can do it again. And if you've went over there and did it, it should be easier at your place. So I think, yes, I think you're going to see an all Merriwood into that next round showdown between 1 through 4 there. All those seeds will advance. For Assumption, they lost a tough one last night.
Yes,
over at their place to number 11 Plum City Elmwood, and they lost by 2. Just a game they looked to have in check, and a couple of shots didn't go their way down the stretch and lost a tough one by 2. For Newman, you're going to. I'll let you jump to Division 5. I jumped ahead of you. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about D5 last night. Newman Catholic, number 11 seed, won at White Lake, the number 6 seed, 44-29. A game that I'm sure you were listening to here on Bull Falls Radio. And in fact, nobody else was there, so you had to listen on Bull Falls Radio. Newman advances to take on number 3 Pacelli on Friday. Pacelli beat Gresham by a score of 94-28 last night. The winner of the Pacelli-Newman Catholic game will move on to play Saturday against either number 7 Marion or number 2 Three Lakes. You have number 5 Wabeno Leona against number 4 Tigerton on Friday. The winner of that one will take on number 1 Almond Bancroft or number 8 Wild Rose. And then also in the other sectional, number 1 Merriwood North champion Rib Lake beat number 16 Butternut 79-24. They will play host to number 8 Thorpe coming up Friday. And Athens, number 10 seed, won at number 7 Prentice 58-46. So the Blue Jays travel to number 2 Drummond. So been talking all year about how Athens has maybe been a little bit, not quite to the level they were. They're just waiting for the playoffs to go on the road and beat Prentice.
Coming through.
But D5. What do you want to say?
Well, obviously Assumption lost. I jumped the gun there, so I apologize for that.
No, it's all good.
But Newman Catholic, here's another situation where your conference will get you ready for something. You definitely saw that last night with, Newman being an 11 and White Lake being a 6. The only difficult part is
it was not an upset.
Yeah, you got to go up there and earn it in their gym, but at the same time, you can see who's bound to win that game based on how it's being played, and you can see definitely the stronger team as it plays out in there, even when the seeding's off a little bit like that. For Newman, I'm excited to see the second time they played. They were up by 1, if my memory serves me correct, the first time, or vice versa. Pacelli,
Newman was up by 1.
Newman was up by 1 at halftime against Pacelli.
Lost by 16.
Yeah, so you got to tighten some things up, obviously, against a good team like Pacelli, but some good things also happen with Newman's young talent. Athens, a hard one to read. I think I can't remember if they split with Prentice, but one of those games was back and forth. And to go in and take it during the playoffs as the lower seed going and doing in their gym, I think is a big deal.
And Prentice is never a fun bus ride.
Yeah, no, not at all. And for Rib Lake, looking forward to see what they can do. They obviously won significantly versus Butternut, but now you got a team that comes in from the Clover Belt, which is always a little tougher. Thorpe's always solid over there as an 8 seed. So
that's actually going to be a fun game, I
interesting
think.
to see, because I remember when we jump out and play in that conference, those teams were tough. It was a different part of the state and made things a little bit more challenging.
Well, we got about minute 50 to go. What do you want to talk about?
Anything playoffs, D1, first thing you're excited about D1. Team.
I look at people. I know people call me a homer, but I really think West is going to go over there and beat Kukwana on Friday. I am a homer, but I still think they're going to do it. I think that's going to be interesting. And again, the Valley has to get to the sectionals.
Yep. Yeah, I want to see after the end of Saturday that one of those teams is still standing in that D1 sectional there. D2, anything?
Can East hold their home court and get to a sectional? I mean, again, it's been a long time for Wausau East. Can they win a couple of home games?
Yep. That's the route I was going to go. I think they've earned it. They've had a great season, done a good job in the conference and in their non-conference schedule. And I think that they you go out and enjoy that and have fun with the number 1 seed. 3, we had
I think Whitburn going to Wapaka may be winning that game. I would not be surprised to see them win a road game there.
Okay, go ahead, D4.
Will the Merriwood party be broken up, and can Stratford give Marathon a game on Saturday? Because Stratford always, I know you have the greatest respect for Coach Schmidt. Does he have anything for Marathon?
Yeah, that's a tough answer. But I think seeing those 4 teams in there is going to happen, so that's a big deal. D5.
Pacelli Newman. I think Newman's got a couple of kids who can fill it up, and Pacelli's had a little injury issue. Yep. And I think Newman's going to make that a game.
And I like the fact that you get a team a second time around. You got young guys, which really have nothing to lose against a Pacelli team that should win.
They're going to wrap it up. 5 seconds to spare. We'll be back next week here on Bull Falls Radio 98.9.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.